Batman Arkham Shadow, originally the subject of criticism, mostly by console scrubs, has been in the spotlight for the past few weeks, being hailed as one of the greatest VR games of all time. Is the game truly worth the $50 price tag, or is this another game that's been overhyped to hell? Nerd, that's your cue. Wait, where the hell is Nerd? What? I told him we were recording. Oh no. Batman! If you don't know what the Batman Arkham series is, it's a 15-year-old game series where you get to, you know what? Take a fucking guess. If you guessed anything different, you need help. Batman Arkham Shadow is this franchise's second attempt at a VR port, after the massive mixed reception of the first game. Okay, let's be fair. The first game was developed for the PSVR when VR was much more primitive. But now that VR has had time to evolve from its early stages, we've finally got a new Batman Arkham VR game as a Quest 3 exclusive. Yes, you heard me right. A Quest 3 exclusive. This by itself has been met with tons of criticism. The last Arkham game was released 8 years ago, being the franchise's first attempt at a VR game. And since then, there haven't been any other games inside the Arkham universe released. Wait, what the? No, get that out of here. No, go, get it out of here. The outrage regarding the exclusivity was obviously loud, but eventually we got to the point where no one seemed to mind and everyone was just excited for the game's release. It's been met with a lot of praise, but does it hold up to the high standards everyone has been praising it as? Let's talk about it. The gameplay is the major thing that everyone is freaking out over, and for good reason. It's incredible. Okay, most of it is incredible. A good chunk of it is, The majority of the game takes place in one location, Blackgate Prison. During the day, you play as Bruce Wayne, but not actually Bruce Wayne. Did you really think they could just shove a billionaire into prison and no one would notice? Of course they couldn't. You instead play as Bruce Wayne disguised as Matches Malone, an arsonist who got caught setting the bat signal on fire. Wait, if Bruce was disguised as Matches, does this mean...
That's it, we got him, lock him up, Gordon.
The daytime consists of Malone going around the prison, collecting intel on the Rat King, and occasionally getting into a fight. I mean, hey, come on, it's a prison. Fights are about as common as my neighbor complaining about how loud I am.
Shut the f*** up in there, I'm trying to say.
Karen, leave me the f*** alone, I am not being that loud. At night though, you get to sneak out of your cell and become Batman, stalking about, kicking some serious ass, and
That's it?
Shut up, nerd, the therapist is talking.
Okay, there's a lot of talking, but it is an Arkham game, so. The daytime sections are fine, a little boring, but the night sections, oh boy are these night sections incredible. The gameplay itself is split into 3 distinct parts: combat, stealth, and exploration. The daytime has more of an emphasis on exploration, the nighttime is more on stealth, and combat sits nicely in the middle, happening during both times of day. The combat in this game is unironically the best combat I have ever experienced in any action VR game. These absolute geniuses somehow are able to adapt the fast and fluid nature of the Batman Arkham combat into VR flawlessly. You got combos, you got parries, you got ducking and dodging, you got some really cool badass finishing moves that makes you feel like Omni-Man. Holy shit, it's so cool. Now, you may think this gets old after a while, but the game keeps adding more and more mechanics and enemies into the combat, to the point where each combat encounter feels super unique. The perfect example of this is the fight against Shadow Batman. Why does Shadow Batman exist? I don't know, figure out something. This fight perfectly mixes the different fighting tools you've been learning throughout the game. If any fight highlights how deep the combat is in this game, it's this one. And it's one of the most epic bosses I have fought in any VR game. The only thing I can remotely criticize about the combat is how tired it makes you. By the end of the first mission, I was sweating, I was exhausted, but I wanted to keep playing so badly. It is like crack, but with the added benefit of getting ripped and getting better at punching things. I mean, just look, I can punch things so good now. Ow, 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 ow. The stealth sort of ties in with the combat, but is more focused on sneaking around and taking down enemies silently. In these stealth sections, despite what you might think, you can't just run around and beat the crap out of enemies. What are you, stupid? These enemies have assault rifles, and everyone knows Batman's suit just can't take gunfire that Are you So instead, you have to mostly sneak around behind these enemies and take them down silently. There are a couple ways of doing this, with the most ballsy way being sneak up on them and put them in a chokehold. Shh, go to sleep. Shh. But there's also these sculptures up on high up areas. These can be used to figure out which enemies you want to target, run away if an enemy spots you, a vantage point to leap down from and start punching people, which is a really easy way to get killed. Or you can just hang from them like a bat, man, and just snatch anyone walking underneath you. While getting spotted isn't an immediate death sentence, you will get gunned down really quick if you aren't careful. Exploration is a bit more than just wandering around. You explore areas, solve some puzzles, maneuver from area to area, and progress the story. Throughout the game, you will unlock gadgets that can only be usable as Batman. And while these gadgets are mostly used to aid in area traversal or finding secrets, some of them can be used more creatively in combat, but usually aren't as effective as just using your fists. The grappling hook, I'd argue, is the most useful gadget, given that it can get you to high up places. And it can also be used to just skip climbing ladders in this game, because, you know, fuck ladders apparently. But other gadgets like the Batarang, Explosive Gel, Shock Fists, and Scanner were also really useful, and unlike the grappling hook, are useful in combat. You also have a feature called Detective's Vision, which can be used to see objects and enemies through walls, pick up on smaller details, and solve puzzles. It's actually super useful in every section, and has a lot of utility.
Kaboom.
Which makes it even more difficult when some sections straight up just have enemies that can jam it and make it unusable. If I have to take down one more of these hackers. Overall though, the gameplay is clearly the highlight of the game, which is exactly what I wanted. The story and graphics can be good, but the gameplay always has to come first in any video game. Sorry. Dude, something stuck in my throat. All three of these sections of the gameplay are very well balanced and fun between both the day and night times. Sure, the combat and stealth are much more exciting, but the exploration is still fun, intuitive, and can lead to some fun discoveries. The day can be a bit boring at times, but they do provide a much needed break from the action to focus more on the... Hey, asshole, can I finish my sentence before you move on to the... Alright, if you blatantly ignored my major spoiler warning at the beginning of the video, here it is again, because I'm about to spoil the majority of the plot for this game. Anything spoiled for you beyond this point is not my problem. So the first thing I want to address is where this game takes place in the Arkham timeline. According to Wikipedia, clearly the most trustworthy source of information, it's a sequel to Origins, but comes before Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight. While this does mean that many classic villains like the Joker, Harley Quinn, and Two-Face exist in this game, they either take a backseat role, are in the pre-film part of the story, or in the case of Two-Face, shows their origin. No character in this game felt out of place. Not even Joker when you talk to him in solitary confinement.
Joker.
No. You're supposed to say, "Who's there?"
And seeing some of the characters in the pre-villain part of the story, like Dr. Quinzel, was insanely cool. Except Dr. Crane though, like I know he's an established character, but I have no idea who he is. My gosh. No, that is literally the Scarecrow. Oh shit! The Rat King is the main focal point of the story, and the build-up and execution of this plot is nothing short of genius. Throughout the game, the Rat King remains this mysterious figure that somehow eludes your suspicions, even when you think you know who he is. The game gives you a huge list of suspects, and rather than telling you why some characters just aren't the Rat King, it shows you why everyone could be the Rat King. Falcone could be the Rat King. The prison warden could be the Rat King. Dr. Crane could be the Rat King. This random prison guard could be the Rat King. Even at one point, Bruce Wayne, the person you are playing as, could be the Rat King.
Everybody's a suspect!
If you know nothing about the Batman series, it's really easy to be convinced that some characters like Dr. Crane, Ratcatcher, and Yamashiro could be possible Rat Kings. If you are a fan of Batman and the Arkham series, you recognize these characters, but are still suspicious of them, even though you know who they are in the grand scheme of the franchise. Because we've had established characters show up as villains like Jason Todd. This buildup of everyone as a suspect is paid off immensely in the end, when it's revealed that Harvey Dent, Two-Face, is the Rat King. This reveal is shocking for both newcomers and diehard fans alike, because the game does such a good job of keeping him at the bottom of your suspect list. He shows up multiple times in the game, early on during the investigation in Gotham City, and later towards the end when he's burned by Crane's acid. Throughout the game, we see flashbacks to Bruce's childhood that show that Harvey Dent was like a brother to him, but he was never the focal point in any of them. The answer was staring me right in the face the entire game, but I never suspected him once. This duality of him as an important character but also keeping him in the background not only makes his reveal as the Rat King shocking, but it also makes sense. Harvey has dissociative identity disorder, which is why Two-Face as a villain exists. He doesn't know he's the Rat King until Batman tells him. Harvey has no motive for causing chaos in the city. His separate personality does. And my theory is, his Rat King personality eventually evolves into the villain we know as Two-Face at the end of the game. The Rat King is Harvey unaware of his separate personality, not knowing what's going on. Two-Face is Harvey being fully aware of his separate personality, but unable to control it. I could go on for a while about how genius this reveal is, but we'd be here for the next few hours, and I don't have that time. You don't got that time. So if you want a more in-depth explanation of the Rat King, check out Clown Puncher 139's video on it. It's really good. Now, even though the story is a really good mystery, it has one glaring issue. One of the biggest focal points behind the Rat King plot is the Day of Wrath, and the way it was executed was honestly, I don't think disappointing is a strong enough word for it. There is such a massive buildup of it throughout the game. As night turns to day, we see a countdown from day to day. When Malone is in solitary, that countdown is more and more stressful. It's a presence that's always there, building up to the Day of Wrath. And then we finally get to the day, and nothing is happening. I was expecting prison riots, rat followers beating the shit out of people, prison guards being overrun, the world ending. But there was almost nothing to show that the Day of Wrath was happening. May I remind you, Blackgate is the heart of the Rat King's operation. That's the entire reason why Bruce Wayne is there in the first place. If any place would devolve into chaos on the Day of Wrath, it would be this place. But there is zero activity aside from a few TVs showing some news broadcasts. I spent so long during the endgame wondering what the point of the Day of Wrath was, until it was revealed that the entire point of this was just a setup for the final act, where Harvey attempts to ram a World War II boat into the GCPD. Which doesn't even happen until nighttime, so it's not even a Day of Wrath, it's a Night of Wrath. This entire plot feels pointless, because there's almost nothing to show for it, and anyone not paying attention could easily miss that the endgame was the Day of Wrath. Overall though, the story is extremely good from a mystery perspective, and has some great character development throughout the game, but the Day of Wrath feels like the biggest waste of potential for a cool twist in the story. Aside from the Day of Wrath, being able to experience this mystery firsthand was one of the greatest VR experiences I have had, but even though the story and gameplay were excellent, the game did have some issues. Despite this game's massive success in creating an Arkham game in VR that's actually good, it has quite a few flaws that are kind of hard to overlook. First and foremost is the level design. Most of the levels are really well done from a gameplay perspective, but with the game taking place in basically one location for the entirety of it, it starts to look the same really quick, and revisiting some places gets really old after a bit. It was also really easy to get lost in a lot of these levels. This could just be a skill issue on my part, but with everything looking pretty much the same, it was hard for me to tell where I could or couldn't go in some areas, and not even Detective's vision could help with this.
The watchtower is this way. How do I get over here? I feel like a massive idiot right now.
Again though, this could just be a skill issue. Now as to be expected, this game had some bugs on launch, and a good number of them were unforgivably bad. Soft locking is one of the biggest issues this game had. While this game does have a lot of mechanics that in theory should prevent you from having to reload areas, sometimes they will just fail and you will end up soft locked, forcing you to reload a checkpoint. Now from my experience, this happened when I entered an area too early, finished a puzzle before dialogue was finished, fell into an area that should have teleported me but got stuck, or even in some weird ways that I have no idea how they even happened. As the game went on, it got easier to identify these soft locks, but early on it was genuinely confusing if I was just being stupid or if the game was just soft locked. And for players who can't recognize these soft locks, this could genuinely lead to them never touching the game again out of frustration. Now to be fair, it's been a month since I finished this game, so it's likely a number of these have already been fixed. But if some of them are still in the game, this is still a huge issue that should not exist in the final product, and is honestly not great. One thing I have a massive gripe with is the flat screen menu, which to be fair is more of a nitpick rather than an actual issue. Yes, it's an Arkham game, we need ways to upgrade our stuff, but a flat screen menu is not great for VR. It pulls you out of the game when the point of VR is to stay immersed in the game's world as much as possible. And for me at least, it's not a great feeling when I'm constantly reminded, hey, you're playing a video game. You remember that, right? They could have come up with so many interesting ways to handle an upgrade system, but opted for a flat screen one. Now, granted, you're only accessing it when you're upgrading stuff, but even still, I do not like the flat screen menu, and I think they could have been a lot more creative. So to quickly summarize this section, the reason why all of these things are issues, even the nitpicky ones, is because they commit one of the biggest VR sins they possibly can: breaking immersion. A major reason why I personally play VR games is to feel like I'm part of the world. I want to feel like I'm playing as Batman himself, and that's kind of hard to do when half the level doesn't load, leaving me soft locked until I load an earlier checkpoint. Flat screen inventories shatter my immersion, taking me out of the experience rather than acting as a menu or inventory that works in the context of the game. When I get lost for 3 hours trying to figure out where the hell I go because everything looks the same, and again, skill issue, I need to take off my headset and look up a guide to make sure I'm not soft locked or going insane. Despite how good this game is, I hesitate to call it a masterpiece because it breaks one of the cardinal rules of making a good VR game, and that's maintaining immersion. Okay, now you've heard me yap for the past 14 minutes, what's my overall verdict on this game? This game is one of the best VR games we've gotten in 2024, and when you compare it to the original Batman Arkham VR game, it shows exactly how far VR has come as a medium. The gameplay comes first over all else, and it's one of, if not the perfect example of a flat screen game's complex mechanics being ported into VR in a way that stays true to their nature in the flat screen version, but also makes sense in the confines of VR. The story, while insanely good as a mystery, still has some missed potential with the Day of Wrath being basically a day of nothing. The bugs, level design, and flat screen menus are all issues I have with this game, and while a lot of these game-breaking bugs can be fixed, the level design and flat screen menu just push this game out of reach from the title of masterpiece, for me at least. Is this game worth it though? Okay, come on, do I really have to answer that question for you? This is one of the best VR games I have played in a long time, and if you're getting a Quest 3 for Christmas, or plan to get this game eventually, you have an exciting action-packed experience ahead of you with one of the best mysteries in any VR game I have ever played. But what do y'all think? Have you played Batman Arkham Shadow? Did you have fun with it? Let me know what you all think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then do the subscribe thing, join my Discord, and check out my Twitch for my, very rare VR streams. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good night, y'all.